Hi, everybody. Welcome to live stream with me, Dr. Aparajita Gidigunta. I am a diversity, equity, and inclusion strategist and consultant, trained social psychologist turned DEI strategist and consultant. And I'm also a certified executive leadership coach for women who want to be seen, heard, valued, respected, and recognized. That's not what today's about. It's never about my introduction. I love how as I'm thinking about it, how many times I say, but that's not what this is about. So this episode is really not about what I do. It's about what I've learned in the past 6 months, and really the lessons I learned over the past 2 years, 1.5 years, that I've realized in the past 24 hours. I do want to take this time to have just a moment of silence for somebody very dear to me and many of my friends. We lost them. And we have an entire community hurting right now because of the personal reach of this person in all of our lives, the personal impact that DeAndre Watson made in all of our lives. I do want to take just a few moments of silence for my captain, for my boss man, for my friend, for somebody who sometimes believed in me more than I believed in myself, who was the best sounding board I've ever had in my life. We lost this soul yesterday, and it really is a loss for all of us as his friends and loved ones, for the Detroit community, for the local Michigan community, and for the national community, because he was such a great leader. So just a couple of moments of silence for him, just a few moments of silence for him. For anybody who's watching and who knows who DeAndre was, think of the best memories you have of him. And so let's take a few moments. So, excuse me. Today, what I want to talk about are the lessons that I learned in the past 6 months, because I suddenly realized that we are in the second week of July as of today, which is the weirdest freaking thing I can think of. And we have spent the majority of this year self-isolating, most of us in quarantine, at least social distancing, hopefully, if we are smart and cognizant of other people's health concerns and unique health needs, because this is not about us. This is about protecting the collective by protecting ourselves. That's my personal opinion. I understand that you may not agree with that, but thank you for tolerating and accepting that my opinion is mine. With that being said, there are a few very important lessons that I learned over the past 6 months that I'm just starting to internalize over the past 24 hours, given this tragedy that is happening in my local community right now, with the sudden death of one of our own. So, lesson number one is that I don't, the simplest way I can say it is smile more. That's one of the biggest lessons I learned this year is smile more, because with all the punches we face in life, with all of the uphill battles we face, especially in 2020, shoot, I don't even know how to describe 2020. We really got 2020'd epically, right? I feel like that's going to be a new cuss word. Instead of saying we got effed up or something like that, it's going to be, man, we got 2020'd. Watch that turn into a thing. I wouldn't be surprised if it did. But with the way we've gotten 2020'd, I think it is important for us to realize that at the end of the day, our emotional reactions to situations, no matter what they are, to at least a little extent are in our control. And we do have the power over managing our emotions, even if it does take a little bit of time, and even if it's a messy process, and even if it's not pretty to look at, that's all okay, because we're human. But we also have the capacity to manage our emotions. That's emotional intelligence. What 2020 has taught me, really, when I say smile more, is to lean into our emotional intelligence, to lean into, so emotional intelligence overall, if you really break it down, has two components to it. The recognition aspect, where you recognize the emotions you're going through, and then the management aspect, right? Where then you just, you realize and you decide that you have control over managing whatever emotion you're manifesting, whether it's coming internally from the inside of you, or whether you're managing other people's emotions around you, and whether you're recognizing other people's emotions around you. That ties into empathy and all of that. Anyway, long story short, what I'm trying to say when I say, my first lesson learned is we should smile more, is I don't smile nearly enough. You can just ask my husband. I'm not a smiley person, but there is something to be said about the physical act of smiling when you do it mindfully and when you do it intentionally. It actually allows you to manage a negative emotion that you may be having if it's not strong enough to overpower the smile. So if it's that momentary kind of feeling glum or blues, this is a tactic that could work. This is why those cute puppy dog videos and those cute other cute animal videos exist, is if your negative emotional cycle is not a symptom of something clinical, if it is just situational, and if it is something not severe enough or prolonged enough to where that you might need clinical medical diagnoses, we can smile. Smiling triggers good feelings. And yes, Sarah, I am going to go ahead and tell a woman to smile. Sarah, you should smile more. Tell me what happens right now, Sarah, please. This is a comment that I got. I'm going to actually show this. There you go. Yes, and that's my response to that. Thank you, Sarah. But yes, in situational, when it's situational blues and when it's not something clinical or medical, the mindful act of smiling triggers good feelings, and it distracts you. It sort of momentarily stops that negative spiral or negative feedback that's happening within you. And then you can use that momentary stop to regain control of your emotions. And this is something that you can, if you're good enough at reading other people's emotions and if you're empathetic enough, you can manage with other people as well. So that is why my first lesson I learned this year is to smile. The second lesson that I learned this year is that no matter how much work we do, we always have more work to do internally. And I know this is something I teach, but to internalize it in the context of all the ways in which we've been 2020 again, it adds on a whole new layer, and it adds on a whole new context in that all of us have inner work to do in terms of understanding how the systemic structures that we've been conditioned to be a part of, that we've been in so many ways societally brainwashed to be a part of, all the different layers in which they affect us. They affect our emotions, they affect our critical thinking patterns, they affect our communication styles, and they affect all of it. I think it is extremely important, especially if we want to be intentional allies in a long-term, lifelong movement towards equity and belongingness, towards creating a better society for all of our kids. I think it is time to own up to the belief systems that we've been brought up in, and to do the work to unpack those belief systems and see how they serve in the context of our current environment, our current society, and the current truths that we are seeing all around us, whether we want to or not. I think our human need to belong dictates that we at least explore that for the sake of our own peace of mind, even if at the end of it we think, oh yeah, I have nothing to change. Okay, you've at least explored it. So being open to that perspective and being open to the idea that inclusion is not a zero-sum game, that equity and belongingness are not zero-sum games. And what I mean by that is that by including other people's perspectives, it doesn't take anything away from your perspective, that it is possible for multiple perspectives to be able to coexist in the same reality, and that it is possible for more people to have equitable access to resources and opportunities, and that actually improves everybody's situation, as counterintuitive as that may seem to some people. Realizing that all of that entire trajectory takes inner work to unpack. Again, it's not going to be pretty, and that's okay. And it's going to be bumpy, and that's okay. And it's going to be up and down in a roller coaster of things, and that's okay. But to at least commit to exploring to do the work. That, I think, is the hope that we need to start thinking about a more stable and a more profitable and a more thriving future for all of us. And yes, I have been thinking about this particular point. I learned that we all need to do the inner work for years. But again, given COVID and given everything that has happened since May 25th, 2020, I think it is especially salient that in the process of learning new things, we also need to unlearn some of the old things that don't serve us well, so that we can create space for new learning. Because unless we break free of our conditioning and clear out that muck, we won't have space for new perspectives and new learning. And I think there are many of us open to that, but we just don't know how. So if this helps anybody, I'm super ecstatic because that's what it took for me. That's the lesson I learned. I had to clear out a lot of muck in here that I didn't even know I had. But when I cleared it out, it left me space to learn more about the nuances and to get deeper into anti-racism work, inclusion work, equity work, and really the human innate need to belong and how deep that goes. So that was lesson number 2. So lesson number 1, smile more because it's going to trigger good feelings in situational moments of glum. Lesson number 2, all of us have inner work to do. Lesson number 3, and this is the most important lesson of all of them, given all of the ways in which we have been 2020'd, if there is one thing I want to tell people, it is dream big. Whatever you're dreaming right now, you're not dreaming big enough. Dream big and then go after it with everything you can give it. Dream big, hairy, audacious goals, and go after it with everything you can give it in that moment, because 2020, I mean, I don't know if I can explain it any better than that, but all of us are capable of being dreamers and doers. All of us have these dreams that we have about who we want to be as thriving, soaring role models. So don't hold back now. This is exactly the time, given everything that we're going through, given, I can't fully say that the planet's going to exist in the next 3 months. I don't know, because look at how 2020's turned out in the past 6 months. But given all of that, dream big. Make those connections you want to make. Those people on LinkedIn or wherever you wanted to connect, wherever you wanted to connect with people, and you stopped yourself because you were like, oh, they're just a little bit beyond my league. I would love for them to be my mentor, my friend, my advisor, whatever. Reach out to them. Just reach out to them authentically and say, hey, notice your profile. Notice this. Just wanted to say hi. Please, also caveat, don't do this with married people. If you know the other person is married, leave them alone, please. That is not what I'm advising at all. I mean this in a professional, career-oriented, growth-oriented, get yourself mentors way, not in any other way. I just needed to throw that in there as a disclaimer because yikes. But yeah, in those situations, even if somebody's not in your network, but somebody else, reach out to them, make these connections, make these authentic connections, dream big, put your dreams out there, live them. Do everything you can to work towards them. Because if there's one thing that I think all of us have learned from 2020, regardless of our political ideologies, regardless of where we fall on this mask debate, which I can't believe it's a debate, but okay, wherever we fall on that, regardless of where we fall on this election thing, all of it, I think the one thing that we've all realized is just how precious life is. Because at this point, I don't think there's any of us in this country who personally don't know somebody or don't know somebody in our network who we have lost because of this invisible virus, or we've seen newsfeed stories, or we have been exposed to this information in one way or another in very tangible forms. Now, whether we want to attribute those deaths to COVID or something else, whatever you believe, think about those beliefs. But also, at the end of the day, regardless of the beliefs, what I've noticed and what I've learned is that as human beings, there is zero doubt, other than from those who are murdering other people, but I don't want to get into that either. But for the majority of us, there is zero doubt that life is precious. And especially because we are losing so many lives through COVID, through police brutality, through people weaponizing other people, their own skin colors and other people's skin colors, through situations of horror and tragedy. Everybody's giving thoughts and prayers, right? Which, again, that's a whole different conversation. But at the end of the day, human life is so precious. And I'm saying this as somebody who lost it and got a chance to get it back. When I say that many of us are in a position to where we can absolutely dictate the kind of leaders we want to be, so that moving forward into a future where America's going to turn into a majority minority society, where the majority of the people are not going to identify as one race, where mental well-being matters, we have a chance to change the game, to make it more equitable. We have a chance to change the rules, to make it more equitable, and to create intentional spaces of belongingness all across society. And that's only going to happen when we dream big and when we dream together, because it's going to take all of us. We can't work in silos of disconnect. We can't think that this is an individual problem. We have to understand what systemic even means, and that it means that we have to come together to figure out interconnected solutions. None of us can do it alone. We all need allies. So what is it going to take for you to be an authentic ally, so that all of our kids can have a good future? And isn't that the least that they deserve? Think about it. Feel free to comment. That's it for me for today. I'll be back on Thursday with another live stream. For those who joined in, thank you so much for joining in. And if you're joining in later on this video, thank you so much for watching this. Again, I'll be back on Thursday. Bye.